Hey there, this is Scrublord Dick. Thanks for joining me as we take a look at Aromages, the deck whose shtick is the absurd accumulation of life points. Of course, this profile is a casual build of a fundamentally casual deck, but if you have another filthy casual friend or you're just fishing for ideas, you really might like this deck. This is one of those decks that has a specific format that all of the monster effects follow. They each have a continuous effect that applies while you have more life points than your opponent. I call it life point advantage. They also have a trigger effect that activates when you gain life points. These effects are always mandatory though, so keep that in mind. They're also hard once per turn, so you'll only get that effect of that card's name once per turn. Alright, to start we run 3 Aromage Jasmine. In line with the previously mentioned format, she has a continuous effect if you have life point advantage. You can normal summon a plant in addition to your regular normal summon. And then her effect on life point gain, you draw a card. Then there's Aromage Laurel at 3. If you have life point advantage, you can special summon him from your hand. If you gain life points, you target a non-tuner plant on the field and it becomes a tuner. That's right, he's not a tuner by default, you actually have to make him one. Gross. He does have a bonus effect though. If he's sent to the graveyard, you gain 500 life points. Pretty straightforward, use him as material for the link. 3 Aromaseraphy Angelica. If you have life point advantage and you control an aroma monster, you can special summon her from the grave. This one actually is a tuner by default. She doesn't have an effect on life point gain, but she does have a bonus effect. As a quick effect, you can discard her to target an aroma monster in grave and gain its attack as life points. This is the best way to trigger your effects during your opponent's turn. Only 2 Aromage Marjoram. If you have life point advantage, you don't take battle damage from battles involving your plants. If you gain life points, you target and banish cards in your opponent's grave up to the number of aroma monsters you control. She also has a bonus effect. If a plant you control is destroyed by battle, you can special summon her from your hand, then gain 500 life points. You're generally going to use her as the non-tuner for the synchro monster of her same name. And that's it for the core Aromages. These next ones are just for utility at 1 each. Aromage Bergamot, because he gets big. If you have life point advantage, all your plants do piercing. If you gain life points, he gains 1000 attack. Aromage Kananga. If you have life point advantage, your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack. If you gain life points, target an opponent's spell or trap and return it to the hand. This is a bad card, but if you're playing casual, it's tribal spell or trap removal. Aromage Rosemary. If you have life point advantage, your opponent can't activate monster effects until the end of the damage step if your plant attacks. If you gain life points, target a face-up monster on the field and change its battle position. Again, these life point gain effects are mandatory, so if your opponent has no monsters, you have to target one of your own. And watch out for that digital bug matchup. Anyway, we run Rosemary for 3 reasons. 1. Flip monsters are scary. 2. Changing your opponent's battle positions is fun. 3. Stockings. Next we have the generic support. 3 Lone Fire Blossom. Very straightforward. You probably know what it does, but if you don't, while it's on the field, you can tribute a plant to special summon any plant from deck. So you can just normal summon it, tribute itself, summon anything. It gives you all of your options. Then 3 Evil Thorn. You might know this one too. You can tribute itself to burn your opponent for a measly 300 damage, but special 2 more Evil Thorn from your deck. It gets you the materials for your link, but it has the benefit of turning on your continuous effects too. 1 Mardell Generator Boss of Light. If she's normal or special summoned, she adds a plant from deck to hand. She can be a beater, but she's really here to work with our next card. 2 Rose Fairy. If she's added from deck to hand by a card effect, you can special summon her. This is not once per turn, so you can use her multiple times. So you can, for instance, normal summon Lone Fire Blossom, tribute it to special Mardell, use Mardell to search Rose Fairy, special Rose Fairy, and use both for a link summon. Also worth considering, it triggers if she's drawn by card effect too. When you draw for Aromage Jasmine's effect, keep that in mind. Finally, we have the real reason we play this deck. 3 Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. Just because things didn't work out with Maxi doesn't mean we can't have something going on with her little sister. Like Maxi, you can discard her during either player's turn except during the end phase, and each time your opponent special summons, you gain life points equal to that monster's attack. Specifically monsters they summon during the main or battle phases though. Keep in mind, if you don't gain any life points by that effect, your life points are halved during the end phase. Moving on to the spells, we have 3 Aroma Garden, the field spell. Once per turn, if you control an aroma monster, you can gain 500 life points, and all your plants get plus 500 attack and defense. It's just a way to trigger your life point gain effects, but the buff is nothing to sneeze at. Also, if your aroma monster is destroyed and sent to the grave, you gain 1000 life points, so that's good too. Also, 1 terraforming to search it. 3 Aroma Garden Ning. Each effect hard once per turn. If you normal or special an aroma, gain 1000 life points. If your opponent attacks where you have life point disadvantage, you can special summon any aroma from deck. Mostly a great effect trigger, but the second effect can come in clutch. Only one Cauldron of the Old Man. When you activate it, give it a counter, and during your standby phase, give it a counter. Once per turn, burn your opponent for 300 life points per counter, or gain 500 life points per counter. It's really just an extra effect trigger, but if your opponent doesn't deal with it, it can get fun. The last spell is 1/1-for-1. Send a monster from hand to grave to special any level 1 from deck. Summon Laurel or Angelica and follow up with your normal summon so you can link summon. And finally, the traps. 2 Blessed Winds. Hard once per turn, you can do one of these. Send a plant from hand or field to grave to gain 500 life points. Shuffle a plant from grave into the deck to gain 500 life points. Or pay 1000 life points to special summon an aroma from grave. It's a great Call of the Haunted, but having the option to gain life points with it instead is pretty solid. 2 Humid Winds. Also hard once per turn, but you can use both. You can pay 1000 life points to add an aroma monster from deck to hand. The other effect lets you gain 500 life points, but only if you have life point disadvantage. Then we have just 1 Dried Winds. You could run more, but it's probably not worth the price of the card to run a second, given it's searchable. If you gain life points, target a face-up monster your opponent controls and destroy it. This is mandatory as long as it's face-up, like the monster effects that trigger on life point gain. If you have life point advantage by at least 3000 life points, you can pay the difference to destroy face-up monsters your opponent controls, whose combined attack is less than or equal to what you paid. Both effects are hard once per turn. The first effect is a staple, but you'll generally avoid the second. It can get wild though. Now the extra deck is pretty spacey. We have a few core monsters and then plenty of room to do what you like. 3 Aromaseraphy Jasmine. She's kinda the center point of the deck, the first thing you'll want to go for. Again, you likely already know what she does. If you have life point advantage, she and plants she points to can't be destroyed by battle. If you gain life points, you add a plant from deck to hand. There's another opportunity to use Rose Fairy. She also has a bonus effect. You contribute any monster she points to, and summon any plant from deck in defense position. If you need it in attack position, just summon Lone Fire and use Lone Fire's effect to summon your plant of choice. Rose Fairy works well with her because if you can gain life points after summoning her, say you used Laurel as material, you can add Rose Fairy and special it to the zone she points to, then tribute Rose Fairy and summon anything from deck. Plants are incredibly flexible. Next, 3 Aromaseraphy Sweet Marjoram. She is also crucial. If you have life point advantage, plants you control can't be targeted by your opponent. On life point gain, she targets and destroys any card the opponent controls. As a bonus effect, if she's synchro summoned, you can add Humid, Dried, or Blessed Winds from deck to hand. All of these effects are extremely important. These next ones are less important, just options really. 1 Aromaseraphy Rosemary. If you have life point advantage, your plants gain 500 attack and defense. If you gain life points, you can target any face-up card the opponent controls and negate its effects for the turn. I'll be honest, this one doesn't really come up. You could cut it, I just think she's too darn cute. 1 Queen of Thorns. Each player must pay 1000 life points for each monster normally special summoned from their hand except plants. Making the opponent pay 1000 life points for each monster summoned from hand can become costly pretty quick. The rest of the extra deck is totally flexible, do whatever you want with it. I use 1 Link Karibo, of course 1 Relinquished Anima fits here too. 1 each of Nightmare, Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn just for generic removal. 1 Ningirsu, the World Chalice Warrior. He's easy to make with Aromaseraphy Jasmine and one of the Link 1s, and an out to things that can't be targeted or destroyed. And lastly, 1 Borreload Dragon. It's very easy to make in this deck with Jasmine and any 2 monsters, and it helps to solve problems like Ningirsu. Well, that'll wrap up this profile. Thanks again for joining. Take